Wrestling with Comedy, and I am your host, the real deal, Joel Davis, and we are, again, like I said, it's live, so anything can happen. This is part 2, and we are so happy to have back here tonight Nick Rossi for part 2. If you didn't catch part 1, it will be at the end of this video. You can go back and watch part 1 and catch up, and then you're seeing part 2 right now live. Nick Rossi, this is episode number 15 of Wrestling with Comedy. Nick Rossi is a stand-up comedian out of Haverhill, Massachusetts. He has attended improv classes. His New York City debut was 2012 at an open mic, and he is a sobriety speaker. He's going on 6 years sober. His name is Nick Rossi. One more time, I'd like to introduce him properly. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Rossi, welcome to the show. And here he is. Nick, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Joel, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great, bro. And like I said, I'm glad to have you back here on part 2. We wanted to get you back on part 2 because you got a lot to talk about in your journey, and people can be inspired by a story, a real life story. And that's really where it comes down to, folks. Again, Nick Rossi is a stand-up comedian going on 6 years sober. He has done a lot in his life, and he is here to share some of his experience with our listeners and viewers. Your first part 1, Nick, is already hitting 200 views, and that was only last month. So we know we're going to have a lot of listeners and viewers here on part 2. Nick Rossi is back. We're happy to have him here tonight. Nick, I'd like to start off tonight with asking you a little bit about your New York City debut in 2012 on the open mic. Can you take us through it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight, and I'll get right into it. I was living in New York in 2012. I was just out there working, writing, being a starving artist, and I was coming up with bits in my mind, as I still do to this day. And I said, I'm going to try going to an open mic, and I found some listing of open mics in New York that I found online, and I just went to this little dive bar. I think it was on the Lower East Side. It was in a dark little room with maybe 9 people in the audience.
A dark little room
on stage. Yeah, right. That doesn't sound sketchy. I went out.
Can I ask you a question, Nick? And when you saw the dark area, the dark room, about 5 individuals, and it was in New York City, and it was an open mic, did you wonder for a second if this could be something shady going on?
No, I felt right at home.
Oh, you did?
I felt right at home. I was like, it matches my insides at the time. No, I didn't have any hesitation. I was a little trepidatious, a little hesitant, with some stage nerves, but the dark room in New York City didn't sketch me out. Maybe it should have, but it didn't. So in that regard, I tend to be fearless, and sometimes it can, it probably isn't a good thing. But that night I went on stage. I did 5 minutes about pop culture. It was really kind of generic, and I didn't really share anything about myself. So I think in that sense, it didn't go well, because I left the stage and the audience was like, who is it that we just saw? We don't know anything more about him than when he got on stage. So I bombed. But I survived, and it just made me that much more able to do an open mic when I did all these years later, when I was 31 years old.
That's excellent. And I don't know anyone that didn't bomb on their open mic debut, or if they did bomb and they said they didn't bomb, they might be full of bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think anyone's really, I'm sure some people had some good first open mics, but if you don't bomb, then, hey, listen, you're in New York City. You're in a dark area, in a dark club. How old were you at the time in 2012?
I was 22, I think.
22, so you're a young man. and you're out there in New York City. Hey, man, you did it. Hey, Nick Rossi, you got some people already coming in here, and I just got to let you know. HD Loki says, hi, Nick.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. And he watched part 1 too, and he's back on part 2, and that's nice of him to say hello. And I like to say hello. He said hello to me too. Hi, Loki. Also, Christian's wife 100. Hi, Nick. Lots of love from your biggest fan. But enough about my weight. Do you know who that is?
Oh my gosh, that's the true comic in the family. That's my Auntie Lisa. I love you, Auntie. Thank you for watching. She's one of those people that just talks and doesn't try to be funny, but she is. Like, she's just cut and dry. She's
Yep.
like Lisa Lampanelli 2.0.
That's
I love you,
awesome.
Auntie.
Well, Nick's Aunt Lisa. Hello, Nick's Aunt Lisa. Thanks for being back here with us tonight, live on the Wrestling with Comedy podcast. Folks, listen, take advantage of this opportunity because, these podcasts on Wrestling with Comedy are exclusive, they're unique, and they're one of a kind. I am a former professional wrestler and stand-up comedian. I keep it real 24/7, and I'm bringing in the top guests in the area in stand-up comedy and professional wrestling, and Nick Rossi is one of them. Watch Nick Rossi as he progresses in 2026, and you heard that first here from Joel Davis. Nick, attending the classes in improv, can you tell us about that, and how was it, and how much do you think that helped you in stand-up comedy?
Absolutely. Improv classes, taking those classes was one of the best things I did for myself, not just in terms of my comedy, but in terms of developing like coming out of my shell. I recommend it to anyone. If you're in comedy and you do stand-up, I recommend you do an improv class, even though you might think that that's kind of not needed. When you're doing mics, it really can only help you. And I recommend it to people that just maybe have anxiety and want to connect with people more, because it really helped me as someone who suffers from that stuff sometimes. I took an improv class with Mill City Comedy, which is out of Lowell, Massachusetts. Shout out to them if anyone from there ever sees it.
That's Mill City Comedy out of Medford, Massachusetts? Lowell, Massachusetts.
Yep. And there was a group of about 8 of us. That's where I met Julie Wesner. Shout out to Julie. And it was, I think, a 5-week course, and we met for like 2 hours once a week. And we just did different exercises, things to just help you think on your feet, things to help you be comfortable engaging with people. We did this one exercise where we just walked in circles and had to look at each other in the eyes and not break eye contact. And that for me was really uncomfortable, but the more I did it, the easier it got. And it really made our performance that we did at the end of those 5 weeks that much better, because we were able to really break down any walls or boundaries we had within our interpersonal communications and connect that much more and make the improv that much more vibrant. And so it was really good. I really enjoyed the class.
That's excellent, Nick. And if you're just joining us on Wrestling with Comedy podcast tonight, if you just joined us now here live, or you're catching this on a replay, once this does replay, you're here live right now with Nick Rossi. This is Nick Rossi, stand-up comedian out of Haverhill, Massachusetts, going on 6 years sober. This man has battled the battle, so to speak, in life. And take a look at who you're looking at right now. You're looking at an individual who's come back from, basically being an underdog. He battled all these type of drugs and this addiction. At one point, he kept himself in a room, locked the doors, and covered the windows. And look at him today, going on 6 years sober. I almost got goosebumps just saying it. Folks, listen, we're keeping it real. This is Wrestling with Comedy. There's no other podcast like it. And always keep in mind, Nick and I always like to see a like on this interview here on this podcast. And we also would like subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. But back to Nick Rossi. Nick, I want to ask you about a drug that you mentioned in part 1. And I want to mention this to you. And folks, don't go nowhere, because you're going to hear from someone right now that's been there, done that, unfortunately been there, done that. is the drug crystal meth. What can you tell us?
That drug, it's the worst thing I ever did in my life, and I've done all the drugs. Not that I'm proud to say that, but I do have experience with most of the substances out there because I spent so much of my life trying to just anesthetize myself because I hated myself and had a lot of stuff I didn't want to deal with that I had gone through, blah, blah, blah. But crystal meth was at the end of this like lifetime of using, and it was, I always say it's like the devil. If the devil could take on the form of a drug, it's crystal meth. Just the way it makes you act, it brings out all the worst parts of the human condition, like just hedonism, like sexual hedonism, wanting more of the drug, wanting just pleasure, this and that, and then you couple that with like the psychosis that you go through when you're up for days, all spun out. And then if you add on to that a spiritual malady, which I had, I was basically possessed by demons. I know some people might think that sounds crazy, but I know that it isn't, and it's real. I let a lot of dark forces into myself over the years, especially when I was trying to like I was studying the occult and the New Age movement, looking for happiness and enlightenment and joy, and none of that brought me any of those things. It in fact just made me more depressed, more anxious, and more sad, which tells you a lot about the movement. If something's supposed to help you, it should, and those things didn't. Um, and yeah, the drug just made everything worse.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I'm sorry. Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Nick. It sounds like it's terrible, and that's something that people need to hear from someone that came back. When's your anniversary date of your 6 years sober?
That will be July 1st of this year.
July 1st of 2026. So that's not
Yes,
too
sir.
far away, Nick, and
Nope.
I'm glad that I had met you, and I appreciate you, and it was great to have you last October at our show. You really showed what kind of a gentleman you were. You took the trip out, and I'm glad I had been able to bring you in and gave you an opportunity because, again, I didn't know any of this about you, and it's really irrelevant because, at the end of the day, and when it's all said and done, I've said this before, everyone's equal. Don't ever look it down at somebody. Don't kick somebody when they're down because they'll come back and they'll whack you in the face someday, because, people like you appreciate the good life of being sober now and everything you've done. And I'm sure stand-up comedy's helped you along this tough road and meeting some great people and having some great laughs and being around all these other stand-up comedians. And let's be quite honest, most, if not all, stand-up comedians have battled some kind of a problem, if it was an addiction or depression or whatever it was. And what I'd like to ask you, Nick, one more piece of information on this subject is, what could you give our listeners today? Any advice? Or I know you want to be an actual speaker too, and I want you to give out your information if anybody can reach out to you about sobriety speaking, because I know you want to give back. You've told me you want to give back, so please express what you would like to say to anyone if they are battling this currently.
Yes. Anyone out there, if you're suffering from addiction to drugs or food or alcohol or to the abuse from somebody else, if you're just suffering and you feel like there's no hope, know that God, I believe in God, and I just want to say God is the only reason I'm here today.
God is good. God is great.
Yep, I don't want to get emotional. But just when I thought that I was dead in all my trespasses, God was the only one to give me another chance. When I thought I was irredeemable, God redeemed me. And when I turned and sought Him and stopped living the way that I wanted to and stopped trying to find all the answers myself, I was truly set free. So my advice to anyone out there is seek God. And I know that's not really a popular statement in today.
No. I have to stop you there. Don't say it's not a popular statement, because in the majority, it is a popular statement. Because remember something, the good will always beat the evil at the end. Nick, you're a courageous young man. I think that's great advice. And let me tell you something. There's not anything to do with being lucky, all that lucky shit. It's about God. God looks out and protects. And there are guardian angels and good spirits on this earth. If you don't believe it, then you better check yourself. But we're going to get right back into something else now. We're talking about real life stuff, yes. And God has saved a lot of people in this world, and it never hurts to say a prayer, folks. But in stand-up comedy, you have been making people laugh up and down New Hampshire and Massachusetts, Nick Rossi. I got to ask you, do you happen to have any kind of musical instruments around that you could play us something maybe pertaining to the podcast?
How'd you know, Joel? It's like you could read my mind. I just so happen to have a Casio Tone CT 5195 keyboard right here, plugged in.
Don't go nowhere, folks. Nick Rossi's going to be played live right now. It's live. This is an exclusive on Wrestling with Comedy. Comedian Nick Rossi out of Haverhill, Massachusetts is going to play a song for us and add some comedy into it with all his experience. And ladies and gentlemen, Nick Rossi.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Joel Davis, for having me on Wrestling with Comedy. You are quite the guy. I hope that I don't overshare. I tend to be an open book and say things that I shouldn't, but I know you won't mind because you're a great guy, Joel. I really like you, but don't worry, I don't mean that in any weird way, even though I'm kind of fruity and kind of gay, but that's okay. I'm here on a great day with Joel Davis on Wrestling with Comedy. Uh-oh, I messed up. Boom. There we go. Work in progress.
Yeah. Woo!
But thank you. I'm trying to...
That was great. Nick, that was great. Folks, you listen, if you have any comments on that, I think Nick did a good job. Nick, your vocals, though, I'd have to say, if there's any musicians out there, because I know we have some musicians that tune into the podcast, legit musicians, right? And comedians, comedians too, but musicians. And we have some musicians that are going to be on the show down the road. Periodically, we'll bring in a musician on this podcast. But if any musicians heard that audio by Nick Rossi, I think you'd probably say the same thing I would say. Nick, don't quit your day job. But otherwise, that was funny. That was creative.
Thank you.
You did a better job than I could, brother.
I'm gonna speak it into existence. I'm gonna sell out arenas. So anyone out there doubting me, I'm the dark horse, and I'm like cockroaches and Cher. You can't get rid of me. So I'm gonna keep practicing, and one day you'll see my name in the marquee. I'm just saying it.
Well, Nick, you're a young guy. You're making a lot of connections. You're staying with the stand-up comedy, and that's something that you're taking for real. I take it. Are you hitting open mics during the week?
Yeah, I try to do one a week. The past 2 weeks I have not, because I've been actually kind of sick, pretty sick actually. So I can't go out and be on stage when I'm like that. But yeah, I try to do one a week. I give that advice to anyone. If you are wanted to get into stand-up, try to do an open mic a week and just stay. It's like muscle memory. Just keep practicing your jokes, right? And you're going to bomb sometimes. I bomb most times. Yep. But just keep going.
Well, you're going to keep rolling, and available for bookings. If there's a booker or a producer that would like to, a promoter like to book you for a show, how could they get a hold of you? Is it through Instagram?
Yes, sir. My Instagram is at Nick Rossi _ is alive, and my the best way to get in touch with me is that way. Yes, absolutely.
Great. And folks, anybody out there listening, any stand-up comedian fans or anybody again that can be inspired by Nick Rossi, because it's not that tough to do, to be inspired by a guy like this. Remember, he's here for you. He's on the show tonight. This is no bullshit. If you do reach out to him, I'm sure he'll answer you. Any producers or promoters or bookers in stand-up comedy like to bring Nick in, I mean, a real good idea. You could bring him in, and maybe he could do, some stand-up comedy and also do a speaking. Actually, something that I'm thinking about, because I'm a promoter of Keeping It Real Comedy, and I'm actually thinking of an idea right now. My mind goes 24/7. Sometimes I'm up at 3 a.m. thinking of different ideas, and don't make the mistake and think that I'm not looking into venues for Wrestle with Comedy, because we will be bringing shows in 2026, and that might be something that I might ask Nick if he'd be interested in doing, maybe doing a quick speak and then into the comedy, because sometimes in the dark days that we have, and when we're having a lot of struggles in life, comedy can really help us get through those times. Nick, we have a segment in this show called Dealing the Names. I don't know if you remember that from last time you were on the show, but we have 5 new names for you on Dealing the Names. Folks, don't go nowhere. If you're just joining us, it's Nick Rossi, and here we go with Dealing the Names. I need to get a one-word or a statement about each name, Nick, and your expertise and what comes to your mind first. All right, brother?
Okay.
First name, Dealing the Names, Robin Williams.
Tragic. Sad, but very talented. I don't think he could live with himself more, because I don't think he was happy.
Okay, so that's Robin Williams, and folks, I'm sure everybody knows who Robin Williams was. He did take his life. He was known first from the sitcom back in the 70s on Mork and Mindy. He also became one of the best all-time great stand-up comedians and was in several movies, and unfortunately, he committed suicide due to depression. And that's
Can I say one more
Yes.
thing about Robin Williams?
Yes, you can.
People that think, thank you, sir. People that think Disney is okay, Disney is not, and it grooms the children. And Robin Williams, like, I hate to say it, but in the movie Aladdin, he played the genie, and there is dialogue in that movie that's very inappropriate for children, and they hide it in like part of the movie. And there's a line that he says that it's almost, you can almost not catch it. But Disney movies are infamous for doing this, and he was one of the people that partook in this evil Disney like propaganda. So the poor guy, I don't know what made him do that, but I just think people need to wake up and see things like Disney and these celebrities are really part of something that's dark, and they should think twice before they watch it or let their kids watch it.
Well, there you go, folks. On Wrestling with Comedy, I'm your host, The Real Deal Joel Davis. Our guest tonight is Nick Rossi, and he's speaking on how he feels and how he believes. He's not stuttering. He's saying it the way he believes it is, and that's his opinion. And that's what's great about America. We can express our opinion, and is there truth to it? That would be up to you to decide. But Nick Rossi is making a point that he believes in, and that is to have to do with Robin Williams. And unfortunately, he did take his life, like we said earlier. The second name on Dealing the Names is Polish Power, Paul Kwasowski, who played Archie Bunker at the Keeping It Real comedy show last October in Cranston, Rhode Island.
Very original to come up with that kind of comedy, and I had never seen that, like people imitating a well-known character like that and doing it on stage. So that was really cool.
Excellent. The third name, Jody Dudley Gagne. She's out of your hometown, Haverhill, Massachusetts. She's an upstart. I guess she's 6 months into comedy.
Jody's Soxy Lady 777.
Yeah, Soxy Lady. Yes.
I'm sorry, Jody. Yeah, Jody's a sweetheart. I've seen her out and about. I haven't seen her for a while, but she She's really good, actually. She's like 6 months into it, and you would think she was like 6 years into it. Last time I saw her, she was doing her Daffy Duck impression, and that was pretty good. I'm sorry, Jody. I didn't forget about who you are.
Excellent. Nick, the fourth name on Dealing the Names on Wrestling with Comedy live stream tonight is Jack Lombardo.
Jack's a good guy. I did his open mic in Peabody for a few months during the summer last year, and that was really fun. It was a nice change of scenery for me because most of the open mics I was doing were like right around Haverhill, where I'm from. So it was good. Every once a week, I would drive up to Peabody and see Jack there. It was cool. Jack was also on the first booked show I had at Funny Vibes in Haverhill last year. And so that again, it's like anytime you see that comic, even if you don't talk a lot, you kind of have that like nostalgic memory in your head because you had that milestone event with them of like a first show. It wasn't Jack's first show, it was mine. So that'll always be a nice memory. Jack's a cool guy.
The fifth name in Dealing the Names, Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. I know he's like a classic and people love him. I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this, but I'm not like too crazy about him. And I remember in like the 80s he was like really homophobic. And like again, some people have those views, but even if you do have those views, I don't think it's cool to like spout them and vocalize them, especially when you're famous and have a huge platform. I think he's come around now. I don't know. He was maybe even at those Diddy parties. It's funny how that works, but no, allegedly, I don't know. But yeah, I could take him or leave him. I mean, The Nutty Professor was a funny movie. I remember watching that as a kid. Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. So like he's done some good stuff, but not the comic I look up to.
People, if you didn't catch the start of the live podcast here with Wrestling with Comedy with our special guest part 2, episode number 15 with Nick Rossi, you missed a lot of great information, some great stories, some entertainment, some inspirational moments, and Nick Rossi is keeping it real, folks. And I personally respect someone like that even a little more than the average respect I will give an individual. No matter what their opinion is, if I agree or disagree, I will give them a little more respect because it's about keeping it real. And that's the way it is at the end of the day. That's the way I look at life because, it's like, plastic people, just really, they just don't do it for me. I just can't deal with that. One wish I have is I want to die real, and there's no question that I will. My name's The Real Deal Joel Davis. I'm the host of Wrestling with Comedy. We have Nick Rossi. This is part 2. We have a few minutes left, folks. Any questions? I can see we have quite a few people here in the live chat. If you have any questions for Nick or any comments, throw them right now at us. We're going to be saying good night soon, but we've had a great podcast with Nick Rossi, part 2. Nick, is there anything that you'd want to mention to any of the listeners about your stand-up comedy journey, your journey of becoming sober? Anything that you'd like to voice right now? I'm going to give you the platform, brother.
Sure, thank you. I just want to reiterate that no matter how dark your circumstances might seem, if they are dark, there's always hope. Don't give up. If I can make it out of the dungeon of my past, like addiction, you can too. Even if your present doesn't look like my past, just don't give up. I think life is about connecting with other people, and although I struggle to do that sometimes when I'm like side by side with people, I do want to do that. It's a part of who I am. So the more I do it, like having this podcast with you, Joel, like this is something I would have been too afraid to do years ago because I couldn't even think that someone would want to have a conversation with me. And I also didn't know who I was enough because all I knew was addiction to come and have a conversation with someone. So thank you for like the opportunity to connect. I urge people out there, put your phones down. I'm not the phone police. I use a phone, but like connect with people face to face, talk to people, go out to comedy shows and meet the comics, talk to the other people there. Don't just sit and lock yourself away in this digital matrix that is taking us all away from each other more and more. At this moment on this earth, we need to connect with each other as human beings more than ever and not be divided. And the powers that be that run this world, no matter what side you're on, they're trying to keep you and I away from each other, and we can't let them do that.
We can't, Nick. We got 1 minute left. I gotta throw this at you. Finish this statement, please. In stand-up comedy, it's really helped me with my sobriety because, as quick as possible, please, brother. Sorry,
I can use it as a form of therapy to make light of all the painful things I went through in the past.
This is Joel Davis. That was Nick Rossi. Nick Rossi, thank you. Much respect for you, brother. Until next time, keep it real at all costs. Good night, everybody.